Hi everyone, welcome to the PlanStudio webinar. Today I'll be running you through how to create an evac diagram using PlanStudio version 3. There's going to be a couple of changes between this update, but I'm here to help you through that. Let's get into it. So first things first, we're going to create a campus. So again, what we want to do is click the pink plus button, give our campus a name, locate our campus using the search on the top left. Once your address comes up, select it, and what it's going to do is then ping us over to that location. Now we want to do, using our scroll wheel or a pinch and zoom action, zoom into our building. Now, if we were doing a campus with multiple buildings, we'd want to ensure they were inside this white, thicker outline box, but because today we're just doing this little building here, we're just going to center over that with the crosshairs and click Save. Now that we've done that, you can see the address bar is all filled out. We select the Add Campus option. And now what we want to do is set up our site plan. Now this is where it starts to change. So if we select our site plan option, what you'll see is our upload options have changed. So you can see they've been compressed and a much shorter list. We've still got the same import PKF file and create from scratch option, but what we have is a setup site plan. So if we click on that, it gives us the option of how we want to set that up. Do we want to use a satellite layer, capture street map, or an imported georeferenced image? What we'll be using today is the use satellite layer. Once we've done that, it's going to ask us what satellite provider we want to use, being either Metro Maps or Bing. The main difference between those two is Metro Maps is a much higher quality, as you can see here, and you also have the ability, selecting here, to select a particular date. Once you've picked your satellite provider, select the next option. And now what we want to do is rotate our building to a 90-degree angle. So to do that, we're going to zoom in and then we're going to click and drag a line along a wall of the building and then release. And then as you can see there, essentially just put our building in. Now you can see I've got it pretty bang on here, but we also have the options here to rotate it slightly. So we've got sort of a slight option here being the little arrows, and then we've got a major option. Now, because this building's gone a pretty much 180 degrees to how I don't want it, I'm going to use this rotate 90 degrees option to rotate it around. Once you're happy with that rotation, select the done option, and there's your site plan ready to go. Now for the site plan, we're going to leave it here, but we'll come back to it later. So we're going to select the back option, and what we're going to do now is set up our building. So same as creating a campus, we're going to click the pink plus button, and give our building a name. Now what you'll see is there is another address option. The reason why is because a lot of campuses that we've seen have their own internal addresses. Being that they're such a large site, it's easier for people to get around. So we leave that option in here for you guys to put that in. So for this example, I'm just going to put in Fake Street and then select the Add Building option. Once we've done that, what we're going to do is upload a floor plan, which again, you'll see our upload options have changed. Now it's loading, as you can see, our list has shrunk again. Still having the sort of favorites in terms of duplicating an existing plan for those apartment buildings or any buildings that have replica levels. Our import option for any old PlanStudio files, our create from scratch option. But again, what we're going to do is select the new option, which is create from site plan. And what that does is put your site plan satellite image in the background. This also removes any chance of you having the geotag, as we'll be using the satellite's geotags. Now we've done that, the site plan's been put in the back, and we can zoom in. Alrighty guys. What I'm going to do is run you through some of PlanStudio's version 3 changes. So now the obvious one that I'll talk about is the whole redesign of our toolbar here. So we've got our building name and level here. Our toolbar is a little bit more sleeker, a nice light blue color. We've also moved our help function up to the top, as well as our settings, our evac diagram previews on the far right. And for our iPad users, your copy and paste options are now integrated into the secondary toolbar option here, next to your tooltips. And essentially on the right hand side here, we've got some new options. So we've got our tool settings. So what that used to appear on your left. We'll get our properties, so our inspector, our layers, our plans option, which is a new feature, which gives you the ability to see multiple plans on the same drawing. So if I click on this eye function here, you can see it hides the site plan. I bring it back. We've even got control of the opacity for the site plan. The next option here is our rotation options. You can set the camera rotation. You can match north. And if you have a wall on a particular weird angle, you can select the match selections option. The next option down the bottom here is our snapping controls. And essentially they're exactly the same except for our new snapping option, which is snapping to other plans. So if you had another plan in the background and it had walls and doors, your walls and doors that you're about to draw will snap to those existing ones. But for what I'm going to do today, I'm going to turn that off and leave my snapping sensitivity a little past halfway. Whenever you want to essentially hide these options on the right here, just click on the option. We've still got our version number down here on the bottom left and our scale bar. But what I'm going to do to you now is show you how we scale a plan, because like I mentioned before, we don't have geotags anymore, which is awesome. So to essentially get an image in here, we're going to click this pink plus button. We're going to click on the graphic option, choose our file. Once we've selected our file, it's going to ask for an attribution. We're going to say not required. Continue. And now you can see it's uploaded that diagram that I've taken in the back. And as soon as I've uploaded that, the inspectors come up with the properties for this image. What I'm going to do is just hide that. So now there's a few options for us to scale this. We can either click and drag using the 4 transformation points on each corner, or we can use this scale line here. So what we're effectively doing is going to go, we click and drag, mark a wall on the image we've just uploaded, release, and then mark that same wall on this satellite image that we have in the back on the site plan, and release. And as you can see there, essentially put the building over the top there. What we can do now to just muck around and get it looking nice, we can click and drag to have it sit nicely, like so. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to our plans option, and I'm going to hide the site plan in the background, because effectively we now have our graphic scaled up properly. How much more simpler was that? Same setup ideas. We're going to come to our browser. We're going to lock the graphics layer. And what you'll also notice is with the browser, it doesn't have every single layer in there that's possible. What we've actually done is made it a smart layer where it only shows what's in this plan. So as you see, and as I transition through this floor plan, you'll see it starts to add the structural ones when I add in the floors, or the walls and the doors, and then nav mesh for when I do the navigation paths and the icons and so on. Next thing that I'll be jumping into is the wall tool. Okay team, so what we're going to do now is start to draft the walls. So again, I'm going to hide our browser by selecting that. Come to our wall tool, similar setup. As you can see, our tool settings now appear on the right. So what we want to do, select our wall option. I'm going to be drawing everything in external, and then when I move on to the inside of the building, in internal. But if you want to, you could draw everything in internal. Once I've done that, we have our wall option selected, our drawing option selected, and now what we want to do is click and drag. Same as the previous version, we get the running estimation of how long that wall is, a little bit of overhang, and click and drag. With walls that run parallel with each other, I just like to draw them straight through, as I know they match. When I come to a curve wall, what I like to do is start at where the curve starts and draw an angle straight across to where it finishes. Now that I've done that, I'm going to jump to our cut tool and trim off all these little extra bits, like so. So clicking and dragging, keeping in mind anything that red dotted line runs through the center of, it will delete. Once we've done that, what we want to do now is obviously finish off our exterior walls by curving this. So if we come to our selection tool, select the wall, as you can see, as soon as we select the wall, our inspector comes up and it shows the properties. But what we want to do is click on our manipulating option. So once we've clicked on our manipulating option, you can see the wall now has a different appearance. And what we essentially want to do is, using these blue dots that we call grip points, is click and drag and curve them. When you do this, as you can see, because my snapping is on, it can be a tad sensitive, but what I can do is come to our snapping option here. We turn off our angle snapping, and you can see I've got free customization with that wall. Once you're happy with that curve of the wall, just simply select off to the side and continue on. So as you can see, if I come to our browser option, we've got our structure now in there, but if I click on our graphic and hide it, our walls are there. And as you can see, I've missed one. Back to the browser, bring our graphic back. I may even just drop that slightly. Another thing to mention now that I've just dropped that opacity, as you can see, our actual image name comes into the graphic, and if there was multiple graphics, we could also move them depending on what graphic you would want to sit on top and what you want underneath. But what we want to do now is draw all our internal walls. So we go to our tool setting, internal, and then we start. As you can see here, I forgot to put my angle snapping on, so I'll quickly come back in, turn that back on. Now that we've finished adding on the walls, what we want to add in now is some pillars. So to add in pillars, we select this option here. We have the option to either draw a rectangle or a circle. We want to keep with the rectangle option. Come to our pillar, click and drag. As you can see there, it's caused a bit of an issue, but what we can do is just manipulate that, fixes it up right there. And when I zoom out, you can see it's molded in nicely. The last step for us to do here is effectively come through with our cut tool and trim all the overhanging walls. Zooming in out to make sure I've cut and trimmed all the walls. Adding in this wall here. And effectively, if I come to our browser, I hide the graphic, there's all our walls drawn up. Okay, now that we've got all our walls in, we're going to start with our doors. So I'm going to turn the graphic back on, hide that. Select our openings option. Very similar setup again with our tool settings over on the right hand side again. And what we're going to do effectively is add in all these doors. Now remember the rule when drawing a door, say we want to mimic this one in the background here. We want to effectively work out which way it swings towards, and then knowing that's the line, the wall side of the wall we'll be drawing along, and then start from the hinge. So click and drag across like so, and release, and as you can see, the door's been placed in. Again, which way does it swing? Find the hinge, draw along that wall, and release. Now this works with all our door types, except with the full door and the half door, you're drawing from the full door's hinge. So again, you work out which way it swings towards, click and drag across. You can also see, even though we have our fixed width set to 820, it's already calculated that this is a bigger door, so we've got a 1.23 meter door. Release like so. Again, with our double doors, exact same rule, except it doesn't particularly matter what hinge you start for, it just matters which side of the wall. So click and drag, release, and there it is like that. Another thing, we come into our sliding door option, so they work a little different. What I like to say when drawing a sliding door is you want to imagine that you're opening that door with your cursor or with your stylus for iPad and tablet users. So if I click and drag across, as you can see, it's defaulted to a cavity sliding door, but don't worry, we have these options over here on the inspector side that we can then choose which side of the wall it opens along. Now that we've done that, same idea with the double sliding doors. But the only thing you're doing is essentially drawing the opening. So if we click and drag and release, again, it's defaulted to the cavity, but what we can do is come over to the right and select which side of the wall we'd like it to run along. Now that we've done that, we can come to our bifold option. Now with our bifold option and the next three options along here, I would come into the tool settings and turn off that fixed width, as you're going to very rarely come across an 820 bifold, roller door or opening. Mainly maybe opening, but definitely not bifold. So to do a bifold, you want to start from where it would essentially compact up on itself if it was fully open, and then click and drag across. So as you can see with that fixed width off, I have full customization, release, and as you can see there, we've got our bifolds. We can control how open and closed the leaves are. We sadly don't give you the option to show it fully shut, as then we just suggest showing it as a wall. But we have the options here to customize the leaf width size and thickness, like so. Now we've done our bifold, I'll show you how to add in a roller door. Now with a roller door, you can, if you like, type in a particular width with the fixed width, but for this example, I'm just going to use the custom width as I'll be matching the graphic in the background. Now when you want to start to draw your bifold, you want to start on the opposite side that you want the roller to sit. So I want the roller to sit on the inside of the building, so I'll start on this outer wall here. Click and drag down, release, and there's our bifold door. Sorry, roller door. Now, if we wanted to add in an opening, same idea in terms of the click and drag function. So if we come down here, we'll select a wall that we want to add that in for. Click and drag, and because we've got that custom width turned on, we could make it as big or as small as we like, but we'll leave it around that 1.5 meters size. So that's essentially how you'd add in all your doors. What I'm going to do now is fill in the rest of the job. So if I ever got the door wrong, what I can do is come back to our selection tool, and this is with any object that you place in PlanStudio. I can rotate it using this little handle here, or I can flip and mirror using these little square options along the top. And as you can see there, that's how we draw all the doors in. Now the next step that I'll be showing you is how to draw our stairs. So we're going to come to the Stair Tool, which is a mini option inside the Openings tool. And as you can see, our tool settings, the same idea with a fixed width at the 1.5. Feel free to manipulate that before you start drawing, but you can also do it after. So what I'm going to do here is draw this stairwell here. Now, what you like to do is want to start close to the wall, so it runs along the outer side of it. So if I click and drag like so, and as you can see, it starts to sort of snap towards the end. This is just letting me know if I want to put another run of stairs in, this is where to stop. So I'm going to stop there. And what I'm going to do is follow that dotted line from the end of that white node. Then I'm going to click and drag that dotted circle around, and as you can see, it allows me to curve that stair around. So again, find that dotted circle, click and drag, and release. Now obviously what we want to do now we've drawn the stairs in is add in some landings. So if we come to our selection tool, select our landing options, and if we click on the little icons, we then have the option to put in landings. We also have the option to add in continuation lines to show that if the stairs are either double directional for 2 or single direction for the 1. We can also turn off handrails and flip the direction of the stairs over in the inspector on the right here. So again, to draw a set of stairs, what I'm going to do is go back into our opening tool, draw this set here. So you want to start close to the wall, click and drag, stop when it snaps, find the node, then zoom in and find the dotted circle, click and drag around again and again, come back into our selection tool so that we can add in our continuation lines and put in our landings. Now, we're going to do these stairs out here, and I'll show you how to do ramps. So do these stairs here. So I know these stairs are a little wider than the ones here, so I'm going to guesstimate that they are going to be about 2.5. Then click and drag, so you see I've got that quite nicely. So the stairs are in like that, nice and easy. You can flip those directions, like so, like I mentioned earlier. But now we've got our ramp here. Now, to do a ramp, what we want to do is essentially we're using the stair tool, but in a different way. So if we click and drag, I'm doing that so I can manipulate that size back. Click and drag, roughly get to the center of that landing there, put in our curve, like so on. Now that effectively we've got our ramp outline, we're going to come back to the selection tool, use our landing options, place in our landings. But what we're also going to do is click on that landing option one more time. And as you can see, when I click on it for a third time, it shows an arrow of the incline of the ramp. Now, obviously this can be flipped based on the direction of the stairs, like so. So that's how you do a ramp. Now, for all your stairs, you can, to find out how particularly wide they are, draw a wall. That's what I like to do. So if you click and drag a wall to about halfway, as you can see it says 1.72. You can basically say, okay, I'm going to make my stair width 1.5 or 1.6, just so you can make sure that both stair runs fit inside. Okay, so now what I'm going to show you is the feature tool. So when you come into the feature tool, again, the tool settings appear on the right, and we default onto our fixture library. So as you can see, everyone gets this default fixture library here. And essentially what that fixture library is for is adding in any furniture. So what we can do, so say we want to add in a reception desk at the front here, select the reception desk, it spits it out in the middle of your screen. You can then click and drag to place it, and then using those transformation points, scale that furniture piece up, like so. Now with our furniture, we come back to our tooltips. We have all these default in here, but we've also got an option here which we call our detailing option, which allows you to trace over an existing piece of furniture in the background, like so. There it is. And if I wanted to, I could come in, click and drag using the selection tool, use our copy option, select our paste, selecting the particular thing we want to paste in, and then we could essentially paste in the same object using our flip option, like here. And for this, again, click and drag using our selection tool, copy, paste. So as you can see, it's kept a memory of which option we've got here, and move it in place. Now back to the feature tool, we've also got the option to add in labels. Now these labels are usually used for the site plan, but I'll show you how to use them. So if we click and drag, like so, as you can see there, it gives us, says new label. Our inspector pops up and allows us to change that name right away. So if I highlight that, you can call that test. And I then have the option, if I turn the formatting to custom, to then change the font size to 20. I can change the color. So if you simply type in a color like red, it turns red, and then we have your standard bold, italics, and underline options listed there as well. That's essentially the feature tool, quite basic and quite easy to use, but depending on the jobs, you may use it quite often. Now that I've shown you the feature tool, I'm going to show you the interior zone tool. So again, when we select the zone tool, it picks up our tool settings. As you can see, it's defaulted like the older versions to the interior zone. That's the zone we'll be using today, but if you click that arrow down, you can also see we have a number of different zone types. So the main ones I'll be showing you today are the interior zone and the room zone. So to do the interior zone, what you want to do is select your interior zone, come to this brush option, select your boundary type to outer, and from that, click and drag along the external walls of your building so that they're highlighted in blue. Like so. And once they join up, and you get the option to click this green tick, select that, and as you can see there, it's placed in our interior zone following the outer lines of those walls. Now, with any other options in terms of zones, you'll probably use the rectangle option to add them in. So if we wanted to add in, for example, a room name, we could click and drag just to place a box in there, and we could call that, for example, production. Again, same options with your labels. You can select the custom, and with that, you can change the font size and the color like so. That's essentially your zone options. You do, as you've seen before, have quite a few options to use, so why not give them a go? Okay, so the next tool I'll be showing you is the navigation tool. Again, our tool settings pop up on the side here. Same similar options to our previous webinar. Nothing's really changed for navigation tool, but we've got our line option here. And what we're going to be doing is starting from the exits. So what I like to do, start from the outside and work my way in. So clicking and dragging to create the line. And essentially what we're doing here is making a network of paths. So when we place our diagram indicator in, it will then jump onto these paths and exit out. So as we do that, click and drag, making sure to put in any alternate paths that you may want the program to use, like so. And also just placing one line that enters the room. You don't have to do the whole room, just to basically into the door. Making sure we match up with the next exit there. Like so. So now, once we've essentially done our navigation paths, what we want to do is tell the program where to run all our evacuations paths to. So using this target option, we want to place them on the ends there. And we want to keep the rule in mind that for each exit that we have, there should be the same amount of targets. So we've got 2 exits, therefore 2 targets. Now what we want to do is check that our paths are all connected and working nicely. So if I select the preview option, click and hold, as you can see, we've got a primary and secondary, like so. A quick way to check as well is if we click and hold. Now you can see for some reason this isn't working, so if I zoom into that particular area, I can see that it's disconnected. So what I want to do now is connect it up. So using the manipulating option under the navigation tool, I want to click and drag like so, and from that, use our trim option, and essentially, just like that, our navigation paths are done. Now we do have the option to add in path rules, but it'd be best to contact myself or the other technical consultant to talk you through that. Okay, let's get into icons. So we select the icon tool along the top here, our tool sorting appears, and as you can see, we've got 3 different options for our icons. So I've got our leader point icon, which is similar to ones in the background, a zoned icon, and a fixed icon. I'll show you the differences between each of them. So to add in our leader line icon, we essentially click and hold, and where that black dot appears at the end of the cursor or your stylus, essentially is where basically you're placing the equipment. So once we've done that, if I type in FIP, using our search over on the right, it enters there. And as you can see, there's also an MC manual call point placed there as well. So if I type in MCP, that appears as well. And if I click off to the side, you can see it's grouped in together like so. So again, to add an icon in, click and hold, so until you've got the placement correct, release, type in your piece of equipment, and it's placed in like so. So that's essentially how you add in your leader line icons. The next option here is your zoned icons, which is one of the common ones. So essentially what you'll be doing is if you click and drag, like you're highlighting the room, and then release, and from that we can type in the icon we'd like to appear, which is the mail amenities. And as you can see, if I click off to the side, puts a nice solid blue icon in the center of that zone and gives us a light blue on the outside. So again, one more time, click and drag like you're adding in another zone. Come to your search, find your icon, then click off to the side, and as you can see, it appears like so. Now with our fixed icons, they don't scale and self-orientate like the icons we've already placed, but they do come in handy when we do our block plans. So if we click and hold, if I type in, for example, a smoke detector, select our icon, click off to the side, you can see as I zoom out, it doesn't scale up for us, like so. So the main ones that I'll suggest you guys use will be either the zone or the leader line icon moving forward. Now I'm just going to place a few more in so the floor plan's a little more full. Now with our extinguishers, if you type in EXT, this will bring up every extinguisher we have. Once we've done that, click off to the side. And another option I'd like to show you as well is with our icons, if you select the icons, we've got the options to add in data fields. So they're these little fields here. And essentially that's where you can apply data. So these are all customizable. You can edit and delete these. We've also got the option here, if we click the Plink Plus button, to add in notes, photos, or even documents if you wanted to. Back to the icons option. So the next icon I'll be showing you is the evac diagram icon. And essentially wherever you see this icon placed, this is where PlanStudio is going to then generate an evacuation diagram for you. So to place one, if we click and hold, so essentially if we click and hold, you can see we can rotate it around. But what I'm trying to do is get essentially our orientation. So the way I like to explain it is the white dot is where you're standing, and the point of the icon would be how you'd be reading the sign if you're on this floor plan. So because we need that orientation correct, we want to place it like this. Once we place it, it asks us a couple of options. So new sign, landscape's going to best fit here. We do have the option to add a mounting photo. If we come over to the right again, we can select our template. And then once we've done that, we click off to the side. So again, to add in our sign, click, rotate into position, release, answer the questions, and pick the particular sign. And there you have it. That's how you add in your diagrams. So for each one of these blue icons, we'll have the same amount of diagrams. The next option here is our exit signs. So to place them, it's rather simple. Just click. You then have the option to either make it a directional by clicking these arrows, or you can rotate it around using that rotate option. But again, to place it, click, and if you hold down, you can rotate it at the same time, like so. So again, click, rotate, we'll give this one a direction. Alrighty, so the Annotations tool. So with the Annotations tool, this is more to help you out on a markup and leave notes on the plan. So as you can see along the top here, we've got our pen option, which you can effectively choose the color on the far right hand side here, and the thickness. It's also good to say that anything that I do in this tool will not appear on the final product. So if I want to show the direction that they exit the building out of, using this pen option, I can do it like that without the worry that it's going to affect the end product. We've even got a highlighter option. If you wanted to highlight a particular room for some reason, you can click and drag, and then you've also got the rubber option. Now, this option here is the notes, which I find super helpful when multiple people are working in the job at the same time, in terms of a person's out on site and another person's finishing it off. It's always good to leave notes between jobs. So say, for example, maybe we say no access to a particular room. We can place that note down. We can even move it into place. So we can say no access, so that when the person jumps in and sees that there's nothing in this room, they have this note here to say, okay, that's why I wasn't done. The next option here is our camera option. So if we place this camera icon, essentially it gives you the option to place a photo. Now with this option that I've selected, it'll allow you to do one photo. The next option that I can place down will allow you to do multiple, which is really helpful when you have floor plan changes and you essentially want to do a 360 of photos. The next option here is a document upload. So maybe you want to link their emergency procedures in here. You can upload that document using this option here. The last option here is our ruler. So essentially if you click and drag, it gives you a running measurement until you essentially stop. That's also good when you're drawing your stairs to find basically halfway between the room, and you're able to work out your stair width like so. Okay, so the next option I'm going to be showing you is the diagram preview. So this is how your diagram will essentially look on the template you have selected. So as you can see along the top here, we have some individual options that basically make it aesthetically look pleasing. But as you can see here, what we're missing is our site plan. So what we want to do is go done, come to our plan manager, double click our site plan, and now we're essentially into our site plan, which is super helpful. So what we can do with this, and what we essentially need to do with this, is come to the site tool, select the building footprints option, import our building footprints, select our building, select our floor plan, and add it in like so. So you would have also noticed when I first selected the site tool, we had a refresh footprints option. This is if ever you make a change to that interior zone, as that's what it's essentially copy and pasting between the two plans. So if you make a change to the interior zone for that ground level, and instead of having to re-import it, you can select refresh and it will make that change for you. So given that we have the option to show our ground level here, it's going to be super helpful when we need to essentially show the path of travel. So what we can do is we can select Navigation Tool, draw our line out and up towards our assembly area, like so. Out to our assembly area. And as you can see, now we know we're showing them exactly where they'll be coming out of the building and going. So if I again go into our plans option, hide the demo building, zoom out, you can see our navigation paths are there. Now what we want to do is put our target in. Now our target has changed from the 4 arrows that look to each other to our assembly area icon as a double. So if we place that on the end there, we preview our paths by clicking and holding. So as you can see, there's a break somewhere along here. And what we want to do is zoom in along. What we'll find is it's not quite through. So we extend that through, come to our preview, and as you can see, it's working nicely there. Another quick way to preview the paths are working, click and hold like so. The next step that we're going to do is going to add in a label. So click the feature tool, label, then click and drag, and then you can type over here the road name. Change it to custom as we want it to be visible, so we'll change this to white. Like so. Now for the site plan, that's essentially it. So what we want to do now is we want to go back to the ground level. So we go to the plans option, double click on ground, loads that up straight away, into our preview option, and as you can see, we now have our site plan. So the tools along the option here allow us to frame. So with this framing option, we can zoom out either through your scroll wheel or a pinch and zoom. Right click allows you to move the floor plan about. Same with the site plan, whatever your cursor or stylus is over, it will then manipulate around. What we can also do is come to what we call a layouts option. We can click on certain icons and move them like so, or we can click and drag like this and so on to get that right placement. You'll also notice all our equipment is automatically filled out with whatever's on the plan. So for each piece of equipment that you place on this plan, it will then fill out in the legend. Moving on, we have our options for theming. So essentially what we can do is come in here, and if we want to make our assembly area icon bigger, we can tick it, change the size, so we'll double it, and as you can see there, it's enlarged greatly. So jump in and have a look to see what you can actually theme throughout, because as you can see, we've got multiple options here. Now, for plans that have the same orientation and you don't want to go through the whole layout and changing the themes again, you can clone, and you can even select what particular diagram you want to clone. Moving on forward, we've got our publishing option. So what we've got here is our publish with watermark, and then our final publish. So this final publish here is what incurs the charge. You can hit this publish with watermark as many times as you like. Now that we've essentially done this one, if we click the next page, you'll see we've got a different template that we can come into the diagrams properties and say we want to change that back to landscape. Select landscape, places it in like so. Using our framing options, zoom in, get that placement correct, move that around like so, and just repeating those steps we did earlier.